Before resorting to war, the American government took numerous steps to try and stop Britain's practice of impressing U.S. sailors. What steps did the government take? Were any of those efforts effective? In the early 1800s, Great Britain and France were at war. The United States traded heavily with both nations, but the British had no desire to allow continued American trade with France. Therefore, the Royal Navy blockaded all European harbors, refusing to allow U.S. vessels to enter. American ships would also be stopped and searched for defectors, and Americans continued to be impressed into the Royal Navy. In retaliation, the United States Congress passed the Non-Importation Act in 1806. This law forbade the importation of British goods such as leather, silk, hemp, flax, tin, brass, paper, clothing, glass, and even playing cards. The ban was difficult to enforce and did not have the desired effect. Great Britain continued its impressment of American sailors and suffered little economic harm from the trade ban. After the USS Chesapeake was attacked and boarded, American citizens were outraged. President Thomas Jefferson and Congress replaced the Non-Importation Act with the Embargo Act, which passed on December 22, 1807. The Embargo Act prevented all ships from undertaking voyages to foreign ports and cut off trade with all other nations. The Embargo Act also proved difficult to enforce, and it became a financial disaster for the United States. While Britain was the primary target of this law, it had little impact on their economy. Jefferson had hoped to punish the British, yet avoid war, by cutting off the flow of agricultural goods to Britain. In response, Britain simply turned to Latin America for their agricultural needs. Meanwhile, the U.S. economy suffered enormously as all commerce with other nations was wiped out. President Jefferson, nearing the end of his second term as president, sought a new solution. Jefferson's final attempt at an economic solution became known as the Non-Intercourse Act, which passed in March of 1809. This act lifted the embargo against most nations, replacing it with just an embargo against Great Britain, as well as France, who had been seizing and selling American ships and cargo. However, this did little to help the economy, as the United States' two primary trading partners were Great Britain and France. As time passed, it became clear that economic sanctions were not effective. A growing number of Americans, including several young Democratic Republicans in Congress, began to support declaring war against Great Britain. These congressmen, including Henry Clay of Kentucky and John C. Calhoun of South Carolina, became known as war hawks. Through their efforts, the size of the U.S. Army quadrupled. With all forms of economic sanctions failing, few options remained for the young American nation. As Jefferson's final term ended and James Madison took the oath of office, it was becoming apparent that another war with Great Britain was inevitable.